All around the country, state capitals on high alert as they brace for possible armed protests in the coming days. We're looking at this from all angles and have reporters and correspondents standing by in all the key locations. Let's start with CNN's Matt Rivers in Austin, Texas. Matt, what are the preparations underway there?
Yeah, John, very much in wait-and-see mode right now here in Austin, Texas, with the Department of Public Safety closing the Capitol grounds and the Capitol building just behind me. It'll be closed starting today all the way through the inauguration of Joe Biden, with Texas DPS releasing a statement that said in part that they're aware of protests planned here at the Capitol and, quote, violent extremists who may seek to exploit constitutionally protected events to conduct criminal acts. Now, CNN obtained a memo that was sent to state lawmakers here in Austin and their staffs laying out what could happen this weekend. In that memo, DPS says they're tracking at least 3 potential events for this weekend. One today, an event starting at noon, according to DPS, and 2 more potential events for tomorrow. We don't yet know how big those events might be, how many people will show up. Things are quiet right now, but DPS is definitely prepared. I want to show you. So they've padlocked here the gate to the Capitol, and if we look through the fence there, you can see that there are DPS officers. Now, you can't really see, but there are dozens of officers scattered around these grounds. The grounds are quite big. They're not in full riot gear, but they do have face shields on. We know that DPS has deployed dozens of extra officers at this point to be prepared for any potential threats that might show up this weekend. John?
I got to say, Matt Rivers, they're not kidding around. That's some pretty remarkable imagery behind you. Thank you so much for being there for us. CNN's Natasha Chen is in Atlanta. Natasha, just how tight is security there?
Well, John, if you take a look around the Capitol area, you've got these low barriers here. It's not too difficult to imagine someone pushing through this if they really wanted to. But then we're also seeing armored vehicles and a strong law enforcement presence here. We know that local, state, and federal authorities are working together. The governor, Brian Kemp, has said earlier in the week that the threat level here is relatively low, but that they're not taking any chances. He's also made it very clear that the activities seen during the insurrection on January 6th. He called them illegal, un-American activities. That's not welcome here in Georgia. This is very rattling for a lot of the Republican leadership in this state. Many of them really taking a look at the need for this extra security to ward off threats from people potentially in their own party. Here's Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan talking about that.
There is an increased security presence at the Capitol, a very significant increased presence. We started our General Assembly session on Monday. And, here I was getting out of the vehicle on Monday with armed SWAT members with full body armor. Looking out my office window yesterday, it dawned on me that the gentleman standing there in the rain was there not because of a terrorist, but because of potentially a Republican could want to attack our Capitol or myself. That's pretty, I can't fathom that.
And Duncan has also acknowledged that President Trump's words, he says, has made Georgia less safe. Keep in mind, the president called Georgia election officials after the November election, asking them to find votes for him. And after being reliably Republican for many decades, this state elected Joe Biden in November and has now sent 2 Democrats to the Senate after the runoff. So there's a lot of tension here. Now, while there isn't a known specific threat here, nobody's taking any chances. The governor again welcoming peaceful protests only, John.
I have to say, those words from the Lieutenant Governor, just chilling. And this is America. Natasha Chen, thank you so much for that report. So let's go to CNN's Sarah Seidner now in Lansing, Michigan. And Sarah, talk about a different animal completely. Lansing in Michigan has had to live through the threats to the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, has had to live through various riots on its Capitol grounds. What are you seeing there today?
It is very quiet today, but I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you just kind of a 360 look at what the grounds look like, because there's a lot of room and space for people to come out and express their opinions. What there is not room for, what the governor and the leaders here, and even the citizens who live here in Lansing do not want to see, is any kind of violence. They have already made plans to try and thwart that, at least to keep their legislators safe as well. You'll see that this is really more of a visual deterrent than it is a physical deterrent. Yes, it's a fence, but it's pretty flimsy. However, they have already decided, the legislators, because of a credible threat that the police have gotten on this Capitol, that they will not be here doing the work of the people. Monday through Thursday, that they are going to stay in their safe spaces, whether it is home or somewhere else, because there has been a credible threat recently to the Capitol since January 6th and what unfolded, the insurrection that unfolded in D.C. We should also mention the alleged kidnapping plot against the governor that you mentioned a bit earlier. That was almost a roadmap to what we saw happen in D.C. And so they are going to clamp down here. The National Guard has been called up. They have accepted the call of duty. There will be security. This place will be shut down to try and make sure that no violence occurs. Dan.
Sarah Seidner, dogged reporter, as always, thank you very much. Our thanks to Matt and Natasha as well. All of you, please stay safe. Possibly better than anywhere else, officials in Lansing, Michigan understand the threat, as Sarah just mentioned, given what they've seen. We're joined now by the mayor of Lansing, Andy Shore. Mr. Mayor, you've already seen so much firsthand. Those men with long guns pushing their way into the Capitol, the failed plot to kidnap your governor. What are you being warned about at this point? Is there anything specific you can tell us?
Well, we're hearing all kinds of rumors, and we're getting intel. Our Lansing police is coordinating the National Guard, which the governor called up at my request. So we're hoping for the best. We're hoping for a peaceful protest. We believe in First Amendment rights, but we're preparing for the worst. So our coordination, the fencing that Sarah just mentioned, some board ups in buildings, warning folks to stay away from the Capitol, all of that is precautionary.
Michigan has this history of having a number of these armed militant groups. So what chatter are you hearing from them?
We do have that history. We're a pro-Second Amendment state. We have this every year, these armed groups at the Capitol. This year's a little different because we're concerned about what happened in D.C. And, there's chatter on both sides. There's chatter that people should come and create mischief, and there's chatter that some in the militia and others are being told to stay away because someone may infiltrate the group and cause violence. So we're hearing chatter on both sides. We're preparing for the violence just in case.
The Capitol being fenced off. We just saw pictures, boarded, security tightened. What about elsewhere in your city? Any added security for you or for government buildings?
Yeah, in downtown we are. When we saw the Capitol kind of getting wrapped in fencing, we did some security measures of fencing for City Hall, which is right across the street, as is our police station. We have had conversations with business owners. The state buildings are being boarded up, and some business owners are boarding up their buildings. They don't want the destruction. They don't want broken glass and doors and people getting in and the cost to have to repair that. So people are taking precautionary measures.
So I got to ask you, given what you have seen all too close to your home, given what you've seen at the state capitol, given what you've seen with the kidnapping threats against Gretchen Whitmer, what went through your head as you were watching the invasion of the U.S. Capitol?
Yeah, I was mortified. You never think something like that's going to happen. 213 years of peaceful transfer of power. When you see that kind of assault on democracy, it was stunning. You do think about all of the members of Congress. Many of them are friends of mine, and I was texting them, "Hey, are you okay? Are you safe?" And Congressman Dan Kildee was hiding in the gallery, and it was shocking. It was something that you never expect. There's always people who are upset at the election of one party or the other, but I've never seen a mob try and take it over and attack our democracy. So it was shocking.
It's shocking and stunning, but on the other hand, given what you went through, maybe it is something that should have been anticipated. There were groups who kept on promising that it would happen, more or less, and it essentially did. Finally, last question. The carry laws, the idea of carrying weapons into the state capitol have changed. What impact do you think that'll have?
Honestly, a little bit of both. On the one hand, hopefully people will not come openly carrying, but on the other hand, it's going to instigate more people to come to raise their voice against it. We have many people who believe they should be able to openly carry, which they can under the law in Michigan, and now they just can't within the Capitol. We will make sure that is enforced. The state police in the Capitol will make sure it's enforced. But again, that's another thing that we're looking at as an instigator. I think it was the right move. I think it should have been done years ago, and I've always been supportive of that. But it's a new factor in when people come downtown Sunday through Wednesday.
Mayor Andy Shore, we appreciate you being with us. We wish you the best of luck in the coming days. You and your family, please stay safe.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that.
The impeachment part was easy, but now what? I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. Donald Trump is now the only American president to have been impeached twice. But like Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, he will not be removed from office. There's not enough time for a Senate trial, at least not a fair one. So what's next? Well, it's complicated. The kind of stuff that could fill flowcharts in the offices of Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer as they game it all out. There's mine. The Senate will come back into session on Tuesday, the day before the inauguration. Therefore, the most significant punishment for Trump, his removal from office, is off the table. But he still could be precluded from running again. Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution says this: judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. That disqualification does not automatically follow conviction. It requires a separate vote. 2/3 of the Senate is needed for conviction. 67 will be the magic number, requiring 17 Republicans. But only a simple majority is needed for the second vote, a ban from running in the future. There's no precedent for presidents being disqualified, but there have been other government officials hit with that double whammy. We are headed into uncharted waters in many areas. The biggest question is whether a former president can be tried by the Senate after being impeached. Legal scholars have reached different conclusions. Harvard's Lawrence Tribe wrote for the Washington Post this week, the clear weight of history, original understanding, and congressional practice bolsters the case for concluding that the end of Donald Trump's presidency would not end his Senate trial. But Ross Garber from Tulane, who has represented governors facing impeachment, says if the framers had intended impeachment for former officials, they would have said so. Both will join me today. Another ramification of Trump being gone from office by the time of his trial: who presides? Article 1, Section 3 says when the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. But Trump won't be the president. So Chief Justice John Roberts' role is unclear. Does it mean, for example, that the President of the Senate, Vice President Kamala Harris, will preside at Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial? We just don't know. Another consideration, the impact on the new president. Joe Biden is eager to get to work next Wednesday. He needs his cabinet members to be confirmed by the Senate as soon as possible. But under Senate rules, impeachment is the only issue the Senate can consider once the trial begins. And that's why on Wednesday, the president-elect tweeted in part, I hope they'll deal with their constitutional responsibilities on impeachment while also working on the other urgent business of this nation. So must there be a trial? Nothing in the Constitution requires the House to transmit to the Senate its articles of impeachment. Speaker Pelosi can hold them indefinitely. And assuming the House does deliver the articles, it's not entirely clear that the Senate must act on them. Again, not spelled out in the Constitution. Bob Bauer served as White House counsel to President Obama. He addressed this subject for Lawfare in 2019 and said it's a logical construct of the Constitution that if the House impeaches, then it would follow that the Senate tries the case. But he also said this: the Constitution does not, by its express terms, direct the Senate to try an impeachment. The House may choose to impeach or not. And one can imagine an argument that the Senate is just as free in the exercise of its own sole power to decline to try any impeachment that the House elects to vote. So where does it leave us? First, if and when there is a trial, conviction in the Senate will not be easy. Remember, in the last Senate impeachment trial, there were 2 counts. One was for abuse of power. The vote was 52-48 for acquittal. Only Mitt Romney broke ranks. The second charge was for obstruction of Congress, and the vote for acquittal was 53-47. No GOP senators supported it. This time it'll take 17 Republican votes for conviction. All eyes on Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Ben Sasse, Pat Toomey, and Susan Collins. But they'd be only 5. If McConnell votes to convict, he could be a 6th, and he might be able to cause more to do so. But that's still not 17, and it assumes getting all 50 Democrats to toe the line. It raises this question: if it appears unlikely that Democrats can line up the votes for conviction, is it still worth trying Trump? Well, yes, if you believe, as the House voted, that Donald Trump incited insurrection, the epitome of a high crime which also warrants disqualification from his running again. By this logic, he must be tried, even if he's not convicted. Plus, a trial in this case could be not only an opportunity to bury the lie that the election was stolen, but also an opportunity to produce evidence of the impact of the president's words and actions on those who were lawless at the Capitol. If we don't move forward with a Senate trial, it suggests that the House impeachment process was all just noise. And we abandon the 10 Republicans willing to break ranks. Who'll do so the next time? And what message would be sent in not prosecuting? Don't commit a high crime or misdemeanor, but if you do it in your final few weeks, hey, we're going to let you slide. If Trump is not tried and convicted, it raises another possibility, that this human phoenix, think grab him by the pee, again rises from the ashes. What if he comes back, wins the nomination, and is again elected president? If that happens, many will ask why the Senate didn't convict and disqualify him when it had the chance. Does that sound far-fetched? Maybe not. A brand new Axios Ipsos poll found that big majorities of Republicans still think Trump was right to challenge his election loss. They support him and don't blame him for the Capitol mob and still want him to be the 2024 nominee. A radio listener of mine, Anthony in San Francisco on Sirius XM, suggested that it should be the Republicans who hope for conviction. He argued that Trump is now an albatross, damaged political goods who can't win again, but unless he's convicted and disqualified, will shadow the GOP in both the 2022 midterms and the 2024 presidential. And maybe that's why McConnell is signaling that he's personally open to the idea of conviction. So, what is the best path forward? From the Wall Street Journal, Democrats are now triumphant in Washington. If they really want to calm political tempers, they'll drop an impeachment trial and let Mr. Trump slink away to Florida. They can take the high road and get on with their agenda. Mr. Biden could even take credit for suggesting it, and his approval rating would soar. The shame is that Democrats seem so obsessed with Mr. Trump that they are the ones who can't let him go even after they've won. Then again, there was the LA Times. Quote, McConnell said Wednesday that he hasn't decided how he would vote at an impeachment trial following a New York Times report that he was pleased that the House was moving toward impeachment. There's no task more pressing for the Senate at the moment than to hold Trump accountable for the damage inflicted last week, and McConnell should do his part to ensure that the trial begins as soon as possible. But if that reckoning must wait until after Trump leaves office, so be it. Well, that's the right call. It's not fair to President-elect Joe Biden that even as he moves into the White House, Donald Trump will still be a focal point, perhaps robbing Biden temporarily of the attention he needs to launch his administration. However, we have a process, and the best course of action is that the process be followed. We can't cure disease by pretending it doesn't exist.
Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, who challenged the election results, is issuing a letter apologizing to his black constituents. Lankford writing in the letter, quote, my action of asking for more election information caused a firestorm of suspicion among many of my friends, particularly in black communities around the state. I was completely blindsided, but I also found a blind spot. What I did not realize was all of the national conversation about states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan was seen as casting doubt on the validity of votes coming out of predominantly black communities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Detroit. I should have recognized how what I said and what I did could be interpreted by many of you. I deeply regret my blindness to that perception, and for that, I am sorry. He didn't realize what he was doing. I mean, it's hard to imagine that. I mean, how could that be? Because, I mean, it wasn't a secret, right? USA Today, Trump election lawsuits targeted areas with large black Latino populations. NAACP sues Trump, GOP over alleged disenfranchisement of black voters. Washington Post, Trump is trying to disenfranchise black voters. The GOP isn't stopping him. But okay, maybe Lankford missed these and many other headlines about Trump's efforts to overturn the election and missed that all the lawsuits were indeed focused on those communities. But surely a senator would not sign on to challenging a presidential election before he knew what he was objecting to, right? I mean, after all, Lankford last year said, quote, "We've come a long way on the issue of race in America, but we clearly have a long way to go." He actually sits on the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission, one of the most deadly race massacres in this country. A white mob terrorized black residents' homes and businesses. Historians now believe it could have left up to 300 people dead. He's on that commission. But Lankford says that he did not know. And instead, he repeatedly went on TV and helped President Trump and his allies try to undermine the election.
I mean, everything from Sharpies on ballots in Arizona to suitcases of ballots under tables in Georgia to laws that were changed to individuals that were dead or that moved or from out of state that voted. All those things demand us to be able to take a look at. It is very difficult to be able to police absentee ballots. Once a ballot leaves out there and trying to be able to manage, is this the person that actually voted? There were some people that voted that registered and voted that were dead. They had people that were gathering up ballots from homeless people and just saying, "I'm going to fill it out for you."
Of course, remember in Georgia, the president said 5,000 dead people voted and it was 2, right? So there's just a lot of fact checking that didn't happen here, apparently by the senator. The question, though, is did he know what he was objecting to when he made a speech on the Senate floor challenging the results of the elections? Just actually as the Senate was evacuated when the pro-Trump mob attacked.
We have proposed a constitutional solution. Pause the count. Get more facts to the states before January the 20th. My challenge today is not about the good people of Arizona.
And it will stand in recess until the call of the chair.
We'll pause.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
One thing worth noting, Lankford did withdraw his challenge when the Senate returned that night, saying that Congress needed to come together. But he did that, right, because of the riot. And maybe that awakened him to the reality of what he was doing. But we should be clear here. He is not saying he is sorry now for challenging the election. He is saying that he is sorry about how his decision to challenge the election was perceived. Out front now, Derek Johnson. He is the president of the NAACP. First, what's your reaction to Senator Lankford, who has spoken out about race relations, who is on that commission, saying that he was not aware of this issue?
Well, is he prepared now to vote to convict the president with this impeachment proceeding now that he recognized the president and others misled him? Is he prepared to make amends to the residents of African descent in Oklahoma with a bill to address the race riot in Tulsa? I think what was clear here is the fact that individuals committed treason, a failed coup d'etat. He was a part of it with the messaging that he put out there to constituents and others, and now he's trying to make amends for his actions. The only way he can make amends, in our opinion, is he stand up in this moment and convict the president with this impeachment process. The toxic culture that has been created by actions from individuals like him and others is something that's going to cause African Americans in this nation to deal with for years to come.
So President Johnson, let me reread a little bit of what Lankford says in his letter. He says, "I should have recognized how what I said and what I did could be interpreted by many of you. I deeply regret my blindness to that perception, and for that I am sorry." So obviously he's not apologizing for his election challenge, only how it was perceived. What do you make of that? And what do you make of that, again, if someone's going to stand up and challenge the election and not realize that all these lawsuits were indeed targeted very specifically at these black communities in Atlanta, Detroit, and Philadelphia?
But, for United States senators to say he wasn't aware before he took such an aggressive posture, it's unfortunate for the citizens that he represents. Is it something he always approached his vote and his floor debate uninformed? No, that's like saying, I didn't realize I kicked you with my left foot. I really meant to kick you with my right foot. I'm sorry you perceived it was the wrong foot. It's still a kick. We have a problem with politicians such as him that use dog whistle politics. But in this case, the loud siren of racism, the loud siren of white supremacy as a mechanism to try to drive an agenda that's not consistent with our democracy.
So he does ask for a second chance, right? He continues in the letter. He says, "I am asking my friends in North Tulsa for grace and an opportunity for us to show the state what reconciliation looks like in moments of disagreement. So, does this really, to you, in terms of his genuine meaning of this, come down to his vote on convicting the president?
Well, words in the backdrop of a failed coup to undermine our democracy fall short. What is he going to do? Not have a conversation, not seek healing, but what is he going to do? We had a person who's still in the White House who have created some of the most negative atmosphere we've seen since the Civil War. Now, what are you going to do since you was a party to this? Are you going to vote to convict the president? Are you going to take a course of action through your legislative responsibilities to build our democracy? Are you going to leave a party that have obviously left the notion that they should serve and protect from both foreign and domestic? What are you going to do? Not what are you going to say?